I just want to say I'm really honored to be here. I know what you all are doing because I see a lot of families in my office, and I know how hard it is to take in foster kids and adoptive kids, and I just want you to know I'm honored to get to talk to you today. I'm going to get comfortable so I don't panic and talk quietly. So tonight, as I was trying to think, what could I talk to you about and what would be helpful, right? Because you're all coming with a lot of situations that, like, what do I do? Where do you have resources? How do I get my situation to get better? I have this child and we're not connecting, or I'm working through this issue. And in my office, I use this a lot, and it is the 5 love languages that you may have heard of or have not. Raise your hand if you've never heard of this before, 5 love languages. Few? Okay. All right, that's good. Some of you have heard about it, but maybe don't know a lot about it. And I would like to hopefully be insightful for you tonight, that you will be able to leave here going, wow, I never knew that. Never even knew I should try that. Would you say, just because I want to kind of know my audience a little bit, how many of you have kids 5 and under that you're working with? Okay. How many of you have middle school and down mainly? Okay, how many have teenagers? Okay, I'm going to try and cover all that. But I want you to know that I have raised 5 children. So I'm not up here going, I'm just talking to you, and I don't really have any children of my own. I've raised 5 kids, or I should say I've raised 4, one's still at home. And so I do know the challenges that come with that. And so tonight I just want you to think, first of all, we all want to be loved. I want to be loved, you want to be loved, your children want to be loved. It's how we're all created. And the more we feel loved, the happier we are. The more we feel loved by our spouse, the happier we are. The more we feel loved, our kids feel loved by us, the more happy they create their worlds and how they work better with us. So I just really wanted to let you know tonight that this book, and I would recommend it, there's a teenager's book, and I didn't bring that with me, but I also have it for teenagers, Find Love Differently, or a little bit different, and this is for children, and then there's just for your spouse. So this book is kind of written in 3 different ways if you're interested later to get it, because a lot of my talk is going to come out of this. Just a little bit about who I am and where I come from. Like I said, 5 kids, but 4 of them are biological. I actually have an adopted child also. So I understand the whole component of having an adopted child in the home and kind of how that works. Still work with the birth mother. I think the birth father is a fugitive in Wyoming. We don't know anything about him. So he's kind of off doing his thing, but the birth mother is a part of our life. And how this all happened, can I just share with you this kind of the story of how it happened? Because I have a lot of time, and I don't want to preach at you this whole time like you're oh. This is a really kind of fun story. My husband and I had a health crisis, and we were in northern Minnesota. So we moved to Belgrade, Montana, to get out of our situation where we weren't really healthy. And my parents had a rental unit that my dad owned that he let us stay in. So we moved into this rental home, and while we were there, we were in some homes with some kind of tough situations, like a lot of kids that didn't have parents that were really involved in their lives. And so the birth mom to my son saw my husband playing with the kids and just saw a dad figure. So she kind of was watching our family, which I didn't know about. And I actually had started to think, I really kind of want to adopt. Now remember, we just had a kind of health crisis. So my husband said, that's for your next husband. He was like, I don't want much to do. We are just trying to get out of this story we're in and this health situation. And so he was not into adoption at that point. But I didn't give up. And so I was searching the web. I was thinking maybe overseas we could adopt. And I knew I couldn't have any more children. And then one day we were sitting together, and we had seen the birth mother of our son around the complex. And she had lost her job because when she got pregnant, her husband took her car, her boyfriend, took the car and sold it and left town. So she lost her job. She didn't have any way to get around. She just kind of hung out in the apartment complex. Well, he said to me one day, you should go talk to her and see if she wants her baby. I'm like, what? Like, how would you expect me to go up to her, knock on her door, and go, do you want it? Because I think we kind of had a gist that she was thinking about maybe not keeping the baby, or it wasn't a good scenario for her. And so I just thought, well, I don't know. I told my friend about it, and about a week later, I didn't know her, but she came to our door, and she knocked on my door, and she asked me if I had change for $1. And I'm like, oh, I have 4 quarters. So I went and got these 4 quarters, and I gave them to her. And it was kind of like, wow, that was really weird. Like, she came to my door. Like, I wonder if I should say something. And she kind of stood outside the door. And I thought, wow, I wonder if I should, like, say anything to her. Because my husband already told me a week before that I could say something. Well, she came back again, and she wanted to use a payphone, but she didn't have a card to get to the payphone. And so she came back the second time. She said, can I use your phone? I want to call the adoption agency. And I went, we might be interested. That's why, and she just looked at me like, she's like, okay, we can do that. And I thought, I just got myself a baby. And I'm like, do you want me to call a lawyer? I didn't know what to say. And she's like, no, I'm just going to call the adoption agency and tell them I have somebody. But she had been watching our family. And so it was kind of an ordained thing. And so she calls the adoption agency, and I hear her saying, no, she's not forcing me, like I was making her call. I'm like, no, but I couldn't wait till my husband got home. And to this day, I can't even remember when I told him, but I think I was so in shock. It was like, we're going to get this baby. She called the adoption agency. The next morning, she needed a doctor's appointment, so I told her I'd take her to the doctor's appointment. While I was in there, they said, we're going to keep her overnight. She's kind of having some issues here, so we'll keep her overnight. And I said, okay, and then the next morning, before I could tell my parents or anybody, we'd had told our children, her water broke. So now, she was 10 weeks out. And so now we have a situation where she calls me and they're flying her to Great Falls because she's going to have this baby and have it soon. And it's 10 weeks premature. So I'm calling my parents. Remember, we had a health crisis. On the way to the airport, that I'm going to go fly to get this baby, that my dad had given her free rent also when she lost her job. So I don't know if that played into it. So I said, we're adopting a baby. It's 10 weeks premature, and it's so-and-so's, and we're going to go get this baby. I think my parents thought I was crazy. Like, what are you doing? But it just was all kind of unfolding quickly before me, and I was just trusting that I was making the right choice as we went ahead. So we flew to Great Falls. He was born, 10 weeks premature, and they said this baby might not make it. He's so sickly, and we have to, do something quickly for him. And they were able to stabilize him, and he was itty-bitty, a 3-pound baby, and she drank a lot of Dr. Pepper. So she wasn't, she didn't have a great, nutrition with it. So he was pretty touch and go for a long time. And then I came to naming the baby. We didn't have any time to name the baby. And I always liked Grant because I thought Hugh Grant was cute. So I thought Grant Howard. I'm just going to be honest. And then they decided, her mom showed up when this was all happening, and they decided they wanted to call him Philip James. And I was like, what they didn't know is my husband, all of his family, and they're pretty well known, they write books and all this stuff on the East Coast. The father to all of these kids was Philip James Howard. So I was like, okay, I guess his name is supposed to be Philip Howard. And she goes, if you'll say Philip James on his birth certificate, I'll put Philip James Howard, not even her, on the birth certificate. So this story was just unraveling. I didn't have much time to process it. And I'd walk around carrying this baby, and people would say, please tell me you didn't just have this baby. I'm like, because he was like, itty bitty, and I didn't look like I had been pregnant, but he had tubes and wires and heart monitors, and he started to have failure to thrive in the hospital because he didn't know my voice, right? He was in the NICU for probably almost 50 days. But I thought, if I can get this baby home, we're going to be able to take care of him. I know I had 4 other children, and he soaked up the love like you wouldn't believe. I have never seen a child just like you couldn't. He just loved to be loved, the touch and the holding, until one of his sisters just loved him so much he would start to put his hands up. Like when she would come to him, here she comes again, because she was just in his face all the time. I had 3 girls and a boy. which, so my oldest is 25, he's a boy in Bozeman, and then I have a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 19-year-old, and then my 15-year-old Philip. So that's kind of my spread of my family. So we all of a sudden got this brand new baby into our home that we didn't expect. And I want to just say on the front that his birth mother has been nothing but outstanding to work with. And I've just loved that we've been able to have a relationship with her, and she has honored our distance within reason. You know, she doesn't push too much, but she buys him presents at Christmas and writes him letters, and she loves him. And she wrote in my journal, wrote a letter to him. So I just want you to know I get the adoption piece, and for us it's gone really smoothly, and I know that that's not always the case. So I don't know what your stories are, but I just want to let you know that that's kind of who I am. And so, but any way that goes, it doesn't matter. You all know that raising children is difficult, correct? I don't care if they're your biological, if they're your adopted or your foster children. It's just difficult. And so what I want to do for you today is, through using this book and some insight here that I have, is give you tools to be able to connect with your children better. Every individual has a love tank, okay? So either right now you could be thinking, is my love tank like zero? Like, my spouse isn't getting me, and that's what my counseling job is for, so give me a name afterwards and I'll help you there. But, okay, I have a zero in love tank, or maybe you're like, no, I'm feeling really good. I feel very loved by my family. And then I want you to be thinking, what about your kids? Do you think their love tank is full? And there's a difference between saying, I know that you love me, and I'm feeling loved by you. So there's a big difference there. And so if you are going to be disciplining your children or trying to get them to become something, it's going to be directly related to their love tank. They cannot receive your discipline in a healthy way if their love tank is empty. For example, I thought, how can I explain this about an empty tank? Oh yeah, the time I ran out of gas. Because, okay, so I was like coming from Gillette, and my tank, I thought I had enough to get to Bozeman. And I was literally probably 6 miles outside of Bozeman on the highway. But I'm like, I'm one of those people that I can make it type syndrome, you know. I can do this. I'm not one of those people that's halfway full and fills it up. Like, I go. We have some other ones like me. So I am like, I can make it. But the reality, we got closer and closer. And I literally, my car quit. And I had a semi on one side, and my girl's in the car with me, and I am like, stay calm. And I'm like, I got to get to the side of the road, but it's like just dead. It just like, so I realized when my car quits out of gas, sometimes they sputter and keep going. This one was dead. So I got my car. Luckily, there's kind of an off-ramp thing I could kind of pull off into. But I thought, with kids, they're the same. Their love tanks are empty. They're going to quit on you. They're going to have meltdowns. They're going to throw fits. They don't go, oh, you want me to try a little longer and be a little nicer in this situation? They're done. They're going to throw the fit. That love tank is everything. You want it to work, put some love in the gas tank or gas in the gas tank, and you will have a way better kid. So that leaves us to the next question is, how do you know what their love language is, right? And we're going to get to some of that. And I am going to have a few chances to ask some questions, so feel free when I do to share thoughts and things you may have questions for. But let me just set the stage for you this way. You may or may not know what your love language is yourself. First of all, that's going to be our first journey, is what is your love language? Second would be, you might be trying to get your child to feel loved by your love language. For example, if you're a lovey person, which I am, love, hug you. If that's not my child's love language, they don't feel loved by me doing that to them, right? Or you might have a child, you may not be touchy-feely, and your child might be like on your lap, holding your hand, wanting to be with you. You're like, this is driving me crazy. But what are they telling you? That's how they feel loved. That's what connects to them. Or you might be the kind of person that wants that a little more love, attention with your kid, and he's out being independent. He's conquering the world. He's building things. He's creating stuff. But he loves it when you tell him what a good job he does. He might be a words of affirmation person. But you're like, no, I want to hug you and just tell you how fun, I love you, you're such a great kid. And that means nothing to him. So this is going to be our journey tonight, is you guys understanding what does that look like for yourself to feel loved, and do you know how to figure out what they are? their love languages are. If I said to you right now, "Wa I ni," what would you think? Does anybody just know what I said to you? What if I jumped up and down and says, "Wa I ni," and you just look at me, all of you are looking like, well, I don't know. And I said it again, or I said it quieter this time. And it doesn't make any sense to you. I just told all of you I love you in Chinese. And you know what? You didn't feel loved by me, right? You didn't even know what I was saying because we don't understand different languages. Love languages matter. You're talking a different language if you're not speaking their love language. So that says to me, how do you figure out what your kids' love language is? And I hope you're all thinking right now, do I even know what their love language is? How would I know what their love language is? The first thing you need to do is take time. In our world today, we're all so busy, it's hard to just be with our kids. That's why I have a job, okay? Because we're all busy and it's hard to take time, and kids want to be known and they want to be understood. But we as adults get so busy. So taking time to start listening to see what clue are they giving you. Is it possible that your child is saying to you, "I love you, Mom, love you so much," or "Dad, you're the best. Dad, I think you're so great." That's telling you he's giving you words of affirmation. So that means he wants words of affirmation. So you might not be hearing he loves you that way, but he's trying to tell you that's how he works. Or maybe your child's saying, "You never play a game with me. You never take time with me." That might mean he's a quality time kid. And to tell him that he's important to you, you have to take time and sit down on the floor and play a game. Your child might be saying something like, "Mom, I made you a really pretty present. I can't wait for you to open it." What do you think that's telling you? That's that child's love language. It's gifts. And it might go right over your head because gifts mean nothing to you, right? But it's taking the time to recognize that that's what's communicating love to your child. I think so often we don't get how powerful this is. Let me just real quickly, just because I haven't done this quite yet, the 5 different love languages you have to choose from. Number 1, physical touch. Some kids are on your lap all the time. They're probably physical touch. 2 would be quality time. They just want to be with you. You're going to go somewhere, they want to be in the car with you. They want to go with you. 3 could be gifts. Gifts, every kid loves a gift, right? But this kid is going to save the gift you gave them and put it in their bedroom. It's really special. 4 might be words of affirmation, what you say to them. The 5th one could be acts of service. And we're going to go through each of those here. Not doing it too much time. So let's start with physical touch real quick. Okay, I saw, who was the infants? The 2 twins. Okay, there we go. Okay, well, let's start with infants, okay? What do you do with them most? You're always holding them, correct? Or, if you get a break, that's nice. But reality is, babies start with touch. They don't hear "I love you," but they learn "I love you" by holding them, by nurturing them. And in my office, I'll tell you one thing, if any of you have babies, the first year of life, their attachment for the rest of their life is completely connected to that baby stage from 0 to 12. So for example, if you've got a child, maybe in the foster care program, who came out of a home that was not very strong and they didn't get held, you have a journey ahead of you to reconnect emotionally to that child, because that first year of life, if they cry and nobody comes to pick them up, they start to learn this crying doesn't work. No one cares about me. And there's 4 different attachments. Number 1 is secure. If you have an adult who grows up to be a secure, attached adult because they had a great first year of life and they're really attached, that's what we want. The second one is anxious ambivalent. That's the baby that's crying and crying and crying, but it's not getting anything out of it. Third is anxious avoidant. They just give up crying. They don't even cry anymore, like there's no reason to cry. The 4th is disorganized. That baby is like, they don't know if they should cry, not cry. They're just complete, and that's the worst. Those adults can't figure out if they should like you, not like you as an adult. So it really matters. So when you're in the foster care program, that's something for you to be aware of. I'll tell you that. The birth mom to our son the birth mom to our son, her mom, had 28 personalities. So you can imagine when she finally hit the foster care program, which was at 11, it was almost too late. She had a mother one moment being a 4-year-old, and then that mother was a 16-year-old and didn't know from day to day. I talked with her foster care mother, and her foster care mother still has impact with her today. And had a great, but it was hard because at 11 years old, she'd already gone through all that disattachment and didn't know where she belonged. And that's why I will tell you, she came to our door. Because I think she knew she couldn't take care of 2 children. She already had 1. And she knew what it was like when she wasn't in a program. I mean, her foster care situation was so late, it didn't work good for her. So that's holding a baby is really important. So attaching with physical touch. School age. Dads, you need to make sure that girls, that you're not afraid to touch your little girls in the sense of, yeah, that sounds really bad, but you know what I mean. Put your arms around them. And it's even more so for middle school girls because they are at the point where they're becoming into their own self-identity. And that love, that touch, gives them a sense of worth, self-worth, self-identity. And that's really, really important for that. Boys will be saying, let's wrestle, Dad. Got to be able to wrestle with them, and especially if they're physical touch. Let me tell you a story. I had a little girl that was probably 3rd grade, and she did not feel connected to her mom. And her mom came to my house and said to me, I just have a hard time. I can't tell her I love her. And this was her own biological daughter. And I said, well, is there something you can do for her to be able to get her to connect to you? You know what she started to do? She started to fix her hair. This was a little tomboy girl, and you know what? That little girl started to show up with ribbons in her hair, and she felt so loved by that. And my daughter said to me, who was in that little girl's grade, she said, you know what's funny? Is that she is mean on the days her hair isn't fixed. But she felt loved on the days that her hair got fixed because there was touch involved. So physical touch is really important. Next is words of affirmation. If you have a child who's words of affirmation, it means you praise them, you say it out loud, you tell them they're doing a good job. But anger is a big part where we don't want that. Anger can take a kid with words of affirmation and shut them down so fast. Those are the kids that become very anti-parents because they need that parent to affirm them, and when the anger comes, it shuts them down. And so that's really important, and you'll know it's a kid of word of affirmation is if they're affirming you. Like, you do a really good job on that, Mom, or Dad, you're doing a really good job. Guidance is an important part of that. Like a lot of times, too, we guide our children with words of affirmation, but is it for ourselves? You know, are we trying to say, you're doing a really good job because I want to look good, or keep doing it because it makes me look good? And kids are very sensitive to that. They want to be loved for who they are, not for what they do. So words of affirmation. If you have a kid with word of affirmation, never say, I love you. Now go do the dishes. Okay? Why? Because you're saying, I love you, but that word of affirmation comes with a price tag. And we have to just say, I love you the way you are. Like, that has to become the way to there. I'm trying to go. I just don't, you guys all know this is a long day. But how about quality time? That means you give your child focused attention. Now, my son got all over this one. He was pretty excited. My 15-year-old, who actually wanted to help me write this speech. He was so funny. He's like, make sure you tell them this. It says, make a commitment to spend at least 1 hour a week with your child for the next 12 months. 1 hour a week for 12 months. Because why that 1 hour with your child? If their quality time will just fill up that love tank. And that's focused attention. How many of you look at your phones when you're talking to your kid? Oh, good honest ones. It's so easy to pick up the phone and say, yeah, no, that's good. Let me check my Instagram. And my kids get so frustrated. They want focused attention. They want to know that you are with them. You're in it with them. And I think kids are sensitive to that. In fact, this is what my son, he looked this up on because he wanted to help me out. In the English Journal for Health and Social Behavior, it states, they've shown a direct link between lack of quality time and social disorders such as relationship disorders, isolation disorders, and stress for teenagers. If you don't give your kids time, I'm going to get paid. And I do get paid, so I can give them time. No, but they need that time from you, and they want that time from you. And and you know, the conversation needs to be a direct conversation, like eye to eye. If I could give you one thing tonight that I promise I want you to remember, can I give you one thing that you can do for your kid in quality time that is not that painful? I made this commitment when my kids were young. I laid by my kids at night. I started it when they were young, and I told this one young mother to do that, and you know what she did? She got in the crib. I thought, whoa, 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 you don't have to get in the crib. Like, you can wait till they're 2 or 3, you know, but I just started laying by my kids at night. And my 18-year-old boy, and all of them have done this, but when he was 18, like, Mom, come lay by me. What is that saying? Mom, I want to talk. I want to tell you about my day. Every parent does this. They get in the car after school. How was your day? Fine. I'm sorry. They're not going to divulge their deep inner secrets there after school. But you do it at night when things are calm and no one's demanding you, and you go lay by them. All of a sudden it's safe to say, you know what happened today? And they're going to spill everything. And you start that young, and you know what happens? By the time they're teenagers, when they want to shut you out and tell you don't matter anymore, like, you know, some teenagers, not you guys, some teenagers do, they actually will just, I mean, really, teenagers want to talk. They want to talk. But if you don't have time for them when they're little and give them quality time, you're not going to get any time from them when they're teenagers. And they will talk if you create that space, making good eye contact, listen to their feelings. Teenagers will tell you a lot. My son, okay, so I am a counselor. I work with teenagers all the time. And then I come home and guess what my son wants to do? Talk. I'm like, really? Okay, let's go down to your bed. It's time for bed. Let's go down and lay. But you know what? He just wants to tell me his feelings, and he gets really personal real quickly. It's not like I'm having to pull it out because I've been doing this for so long that he knows I want to care. Another thing with teenagers, make sure you ask permission to give your advice. As a counselor, I'm sure these girls too, some other teenagers in here, they don't just want to hear what you say unless you ask. Like, let them just talk. They want you to ask, can I give you what I think is a good thing? Because you're respecting them as adults. So that's another thing to really remember as teenagers. And I'm sorry, I really want this to go quickly because I don't want you all to fall asleep here. But gifts. Let's talk real quickly about gifts. If your child is a gift, a person who needs gifts, you will know because you will give them a gift and they will look at the package. And they will look at the bow, and they will think it's so amazing. And they will have a real feeling of ownership to the gift, or they'll want to. How many of you have kids that make presents for teachers? That one, Rachel. Okay, I'm guessing gifts. That's a good sign for gifts. That's what you want to speak into their life, get them a gift. It's a tricky thing with gifts. Don't use gifts to try to change how many parents bribe kids to do what they want them to do with gifts? Yeah, exactly. So easy to do. So we have to be really careful with gifts, right? Because they get a mixed message if you're giving a gift to take out of another place. You don't want to spend time with them? Here's your gifts. And I know some people that have lots of kids and they have a lot of money and they don't have time for them, but guess what they get them? Tons chandelier over their bed. Beautiful home. But no time. And they don't need gifts. They want them. So be real careful. If they're a gift person, you'll know it, and then you need to do gifts because that'll be intentional, trying to connect with them that way. But it's so easy. And let me just tell you, I absolutely bribe my kids with gifts at home, so that's just something I want to say there. Finally, the acts of service. Now that's a little hard. Does anybody here think that they feel loved when somebody serves them? Can you raise your hand? Some of you know. Okay, my husband is an acts of service. I'm not. Like, he loves to get me a cup of tea, doesn't connect to me as much. That's how he works. So what do you think I should do to make him feel loved? Take him something, like in the morning, that's like kills me. I'm like, oh, take you a cup of coffee. But that means the world to him, right? Because that's what he does for me. And children are not going to naturally get to that. Actually, it takes very special children that are full in their love tank to do acts of service. Can I show you something my daughter did for me? I got this note. This was about, I just will tell you, she was probably 20, so don't lose hope. Okay, and this was my hardest kid. Like, I'm glad she survived me raising her because she was a tough kid. But it says, love you, Mom. Have a good day. Thank you for working so hard. And I came home to my house cleaned, candle on. It was perfect. And I didn't say, would you please go clean my house for me today? She did it on her own for me because she was loving me in a way that meant something to her. She served me in something. And I just feel like that was a great I kept this, as was in my Bible, because I keep it so much, because it's special to me, because that child, I had to apologize so many times to her, because we fought all the time, and I didn't know if we'd ever get along and if she'd ever come around. But it was through the teenage years, and now at 20, she was cleaning my house. But acts of service is something that you might have to decide, is that your child's love language? So kind of in summary here, and this is where I want you to join in with me a little bit. Can we review, first of all, the 5 love languages? I want to say them again. They're quality time, they are acts of service, since I just said that one, gifts, words of affirmation, and physical touch. Those are your 5. Now you all need to be going home thinking, where do I fit with my kids in that? Remember, if you can think nothing else, what I need means I love you, but it doesn't mean anything to you if you don't know that language, right? If I had Chinese people in here tonight, they would go, oh, that's really nice of her. But you all are looking at me like you don't know what I'm saying, because that's not our language. So right now, I'd just like you to think about a time when maybe you felt like you did something for your child that made them connect love, like you saw that child felt loved. Can anybody have a time where they feel like, I did this and it really worked? It's kind of off the hip, but can you have anything for me that you can think of that? Like maybe you thought, I met that need through physical touch and I saw that help. Does anyone think of anything like that? Or maybe I served that child and I noticed that helped that child. Can you think of an example for me? And if not, I could tell you one. I'll tell you one while you think. How about that? So my son, my oldest son, he had 3 younger sisters and this baby, and he didn't always feel, I think, like he kind of got lost because he was the oldest. And what I did with him was, 6th grade, I decided I'm going to take him on a road trip. How many of you, there's a girl, Debbie Drapes from here, who actually gave me this idea way back before I had kids, that she took her kids on a road trip. And so I said, I'm going to take you on a road trip. He goes, you wouldn't do that. I'm like, yeah, I would. No, you won't. You're busy. I'm going to do that. So he and I got in the car. It was in the summer. I took him. We spent the night in hotels. We went on a road trip to Minnesota, just he and I. At 12 years old, it was priceless for that kid. He needed to know he mattered. And I feel like at that point, I actually showed him love. It was quality time, no sisters, no babies, just him. So that was a way. Can you think of something maybe that you have ever done with a kid that maybe you were like, yeah, maybe you just want to be quiet. That's fine too. Anybody? Okay, we'll go to number 2. So tonight, I'd like you to think on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think your children's love tank is right now? That's a good counselor question. Okay, everything is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being super loved. I want you to think of your kids right now. What do you think their love tank is? Do you think it's a 3? Are they acting out? Because if they're throwing big fits and you can't connect to them, my guess is you're not connecting emotionally to their love tank. So is it a 5? Pretty good. Is it an 8? Like you connect your love language, their love language, it just is the same. What do you think? How do they know you love them, but they don't feel you love them? That's the other word I want you to think about today. Because your kids might say, well, I know my mom loves me, but does she feel like you love her? Does he feel that you love her? And then I'd like you also to kind of think back to your own childhood. What made you feel loved by your parents? Can you think of something that dad did, mom did, that, like, you're right, I really felt loved when my parents took the time to do this or that? Because we have to remember that connection, what it does for us. So, and I just want to kind of summarize up here in the next few minutes with a story of another foster parent. How many of you guys are foster parents out here? Okay, a lot of you. Okay. Thank you for what you do. I have one more story of a young girl that was in the foster care system. And let me just tell you kind of, my story is when I met her mom, and some of you have heard this, but when I met this young girl's mom for the first time, she came walking at me, and she kind of wore like this coat that they said she was kind of the witch in the town. She had like earrings up around her ears and just a lot of rings on her finger and up her arms. And she kind of was not very well appreciated in the town I was living in. She had 3 little kids. And these kids were living in a really tough situation. And one specifically ended up leaving that home and had to go to foster care situation. And it really was because she was pretty healthy, which just means the other ones kind of stayed in the situation that wasn't healthy, but she fought more. And the fun thing was when she moved into this foster care home, she was in high school. And for 2 years, it allowed her to get through high school and graduate, which was really important because she just graduated from the University of Montana just about a year ago and now is going to grad school down in Arizona. And I often think if that foster parent hadn't stepped up in her life at that point and took her in and loved on her and got her through that crisis when her mom wasn't healthy and she was trying to do some healthy things, would she have been able to graduate? Would she have been able to really, and you know what, guess what she's going into? Counseling. and she's a phenomenal young woman, and she had a really tough go. Her mom was very much, had some real emotional issues, and yet she's made it that far. So what you guys do is so important. And kind of as I wrap up here, I want to encourage you, but I also want to give you a place if you have questions that you could ask me, like, oh, I'm in this situation with my child and I can't get this. Is there anything? I'd love to give you a chance to be able to ask that. And I'll give you what I know. I highly recommend getting this book. Okay, it's a great book if you're having struggles with your kids. It talks in there about single parents. Do we have any single foster families in here? Okay, there's a section there. I couldn't hit it all. So what do you do and how do you best connect? Because it's hard when you've got kids and you're all alone. So, but anybody else have something else that's kind of they have a question about when it comes to love languages? Yes.
How do you change your child's love language?
You don't.
So, like, for example, so my son, his birth mom, they didn't really know how to love her
Right.
kids, and so she bought them gifts.
Okay.
And so that for him, that's kind of how
Where he feels loved.
Yeah, when he gets stuff, he's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, means a lot.
But yeah, but I'm like that's not.
So that's a very good question. I like what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying. So versus like feeding that part of him. What it is, it's not about the gift as much as the intentionality of the gift. You need to transfer that ability for that child to go from, it's all about me, to, I have a gift for you that I've thought about. It's small, but it means something. So you know what I mean? Like those kind of kids, like, oh, I just want more stuff, more stuff. It's teaching him that a gift, he is going to be a gift kid probably, but he could be by nature anyway. And it meant something to him because that made him feel loved by his mom. But now we want it to mean something. So we want it, like, I'd be intentional. If you know he likes something small, I got you this day, because he's going to feel loved by that. So you can't really take that away from that. Does that make sense? It's more about how you go about teaching him to use that. Plus, he's probably going to be a giver if he's a true gift kid. So want to include that in the whole process. You like getting gifts. Who can we give a gift to this week that would be really fun to show that you're thinking about them so it doesn't become about him, right? So gift kids aren't just about taking, they're also about giving. So if if you think you can do that with him, I would try to take it to that level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's something how I would turn it, and then maybe see if he goes along with that, or if he fights you on it, it'd be interesting to know, right? I think, but most kids don't mind if they have encouragement to help giving somebody else a gift. They usually like to also give, but especially the giver. Good question. Anybody else have something that's kind of going on at their home that they're wondering? Yes?
So we have a teenage kiddo, and I know about the 5 love languages. My husband and I read that, and we know each other's love language, but trying to figure out my kiddo's, he's came from a really traumatic, I mean, I know they all have,
Right,
but his was pretty traumatic. And so just trying to figure his out because he was without
Right.
of everything so much.
Right.
Gifts and time and affirmation. I mean, he was without all of it.
Wow, yeah. So it's hard.
And I guess listening to you talking, I was just thinking he, on more than one occasion has wanted to get a gift for a friend.
Okay.
So I'm kind of leaning.
Because they usually give people want to give. So they don't just want, but they do want to give. So if he's at all talking about giving something to someone, that might be a way that, and that's would be a great healing part for him. And start with that. There are usually clues. And like,
Well, and that's my love language too, and so.
Well, that's good.
And people tend to go towards what their love
Ex-
language is, I know.
Right.
And my husband gets so irritated. I buy gifts for people.
yeah, because you're trying to, like, that's how you show love.
That's
Right.
how I show love, and so I have showered him,
With gifts.
but it truly comes from, that's just,
How
because
you do
that's how I show that I love him, and of course, he appreciates it, but I've often wondered, and my husband thinks too, well, does he really appreciate her, he just, because he didn't have anything.
Right, so it is a lot. When I really do think, and I would encourage anytime he's giving, because we really get more whole when we think of others.
Yeah.
So anytime that shows up, I definitely would encourage those behaviors and praise those behaviors. Like, that's so thoughtful of you, because that, and it's going to take maybe some more time for him since he has had not the background. But those things will start to rise a little more, I think, as you get to know him more and he gets more secure in your home. I would say. Anything else? Anybody else have anything else they're dealing with? Yes.
Yeah, we have a teenager in our home for the first time after we raised several of them. Anyway, I've been trying to figure out what her love language is, and it's really, really hard because there's a lot of mental health issues in the family.
Mhm.
And she's been on a horrible roller coaster,
Right.
and, but mom's always been there, even with the mental
Health.
illnesses.
Okay.
So I've been
Trying to.
trying the physical touch and quality time,
Okay.
and it just,
Connecting is hard.
none of it.
Is working. And I think with some of these kids, they've put their walls up, of course, to survive. So they're looking for consistency and safety, right? So I don't think you ever stop. I would see what she does to you. Does she do anything to you? Is she words? Does she tell you thank you for making a meal?
Constantly.
Oh, there's your words of affirmation. She's telling you right there what's
Okay.
going on. Thank you for doing this. So then you give back to her. You
Every
say.
meal is thank you for the food, thank you for.
So she's giving you words of affirmation. There she is right there. See, they are there. You just got to know how to look for them. But that's a great thing for you. So you can say how much, praise her, not over, of course, it has to be real, but she will soak in any kind of that. That's really good. I'm glad.
It's through food.
What's that?
It's through food.
And food. Well, she likes.
She loves the food.
Oh,
She
no,
lo-
thanks
Don't we
for
all?
taking her. Thank you for picking me up. Thank you for doing that.
Awesome.
Thank you for doing
Very
that.
appreciative. So I would definitely appreciate things she's doing. We'll speak to her. Anything else? Anything else that maybe you're kind of wondering, I wonder what I do in this situation? Any other situations that might be out there? You've all been really good. I hope I don't overwhelm you. But I want to encourage you one thing here as we leave tonight. Remember that their emotional tank is everything. If that doesn't get full, they're going to pull off the side of the gas. They can't keep going. They need to have love, and they need to figure out that you love them. And second, it needs to be unconditional love. Make sure that you don't give your kids the idea that you will love them if they do something right. Kids need to be, and you as parents and as adults know that we all do better when we're just loved for who we are. So we want that to be an important part, because you will get very well stable kids if you work through their childish behavior, you work through the fact that you understand their kids, and you love them unconditionally, and you know that it's not about their performance, but you just love them. Because if you're doing it for performance base, they will be insecure, never competent, and never be good about themselves. So just kind of wrapping that up is something I want you to remember. So thank you so much, and I hope this was helpful.